This is Joe Krein from Elvis2001.net, and we're on LVI Radio, and I have Mr. Ronnie McDowell with me. Ronnie, how are you today?
Live and in color, Joe.
There you go. Hey, can you tell me a little bit about yourself, about your family, where you were born and raised?
Yeah, Joe, I was born in, actually, Fountainhead, Tennessee, back in 1950, March, on a Sunday night, March 25th, and I was raised there in Portland, Tennessee, until I went to Vietnam in 1968 through 1972. Spent 3 terms in Vietnam, and got out of Vietnam, started writing songs, and I'm talking to you tonight because of it.
What did your parents do?
My mother was she worked in shirt factories and restaurants, and my dad built houses.
Mm-hmm. So how did you get into the music business? Is that what you always wanted to do, was write songs?
Yeah, in 1954 or 53, I was singing along with Lefty Frizzell, Hank Williams, Fats Domino, all pre-Elvis Presley. And then in 1955, I heard Elvis. My sister brought in some of Elvis records, and then 56, February, saw him on the Dorsey shows, and then, like me and everybody else, you know, the music world changed dramatically because of Elvis, and I'm still, a big Elvis fan.
Yeah, so am I. Well, you told me what you'd like to listen to when you were growing up, so I have to ask, how many times did you ever get to see Elvis?
No, I never laid eyes on Elvis Presley at all.
Never went to a concert?
No, I was always working, and I always figured Elvis would be around. I'd go see him sooner or later, but that wasn't to be.
Yeah. Yeah. How did you hear that Elvis had passed?
I was in my car, my 1977 Camaro, and had the radio on at 2:22 in the afternoon, and it said Elvis had passed away.
Yep, and the world changed.
Yes.
How did you, I mean, we all know that your first hit was The King Is Gone. How did you just sit down that day and write that tribute song?
Well, as I was going down the road in my Camaro, after hearing that Elvis had passed away, 15 minutes down the road, I had the melody and the lyric to the very first part of that song.
Mm-hmm.
I was barely 6 years old when I first heard him sing that part, the talking part, and then a friend of mine, Lee Morgan, had written, there was a man who gave the world a song. And so we combined what he had and what I had together, and that's what we came up with.
Goodness, I don't know how you were able to do that. I mean, my world, like I said, changed. I mean, I couldn't put 2 and 3 together that week. I mean, I was just a mess over the death of Elvis Presley.
Well, because all the sentiments that I felt growing up being a big Elvis fan just started pouring out as soon as I heard about it. Mm-hmm. And I was already a songwriter at that time. Mm-hmm. And so I guess that had a lot to do with it as well.
Yeah. Who did you write for?
I wrote for Scorpion Records. I'd already had, let's say, here's Elvis Presley's birthplace of Tupelo to get a Mississippi Blues Trail marker. It says on the news right now. Sorry, I didn't mean to get off.
No, that's okay. Yeah, I saw that myself today.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to write for Scorpion Records. That's who I was writing for at the time. Mm-hmm. And I had already had songs recorded by Roy Dresky and Billy Walker and Jeannie Shepherd and the Wilburn Brothers and Porter Wagner. And you got to remember, back in those days, those folks were still having hit records.
Yeah. Now, what did they say about, Scorpion Records, about a tribute song?
They didn't want to do it. As a matter of fact, they were closing down. They were going to close up shop. The owner was in Florida. I called him, and he said he didn't want anything to do with it. He went to Florida to get out of the record business, and I said, well, that's fine. So I went ahead and I did it, and of course, you know, the rest is history.
Yeah. I mean, how many records has this sold? Do you know?
Over 5 million to date.
Wow. Now, that all happened rather fast. I mean, it seemed like I think I heard your song, and maybe a week later, I saw you on American Bandstand.
Yeah, that happened real quick. And it was so quick, you know, it was kind of mind-boggling, really.
Was it?
Yeah, I was on Grand Ole Opry 2 days later after I recorded the song.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't even know the song, and I was thrust on the Opry, which was a wonderful thing, and luckily I made it through. And then the next, that same night I was in Chattanooga at a show, and then the next night I flew out to Peoria, and I was on a show with George Jones and Mary Gatlin.
Oh, George Jones.
And George didn't show up. He was performing for some Germans at a bar around the street.
No-show Jones. Big fan.
That's the truth.
Big fan. That must, my goodness, I mean, you were a songwriter, but how was it to be thrust into that? Did you start right away to do tours and stuff? And
I did. Well, I started, like I say, 2 days later. I was on the Opry, and then I started working. I mean, that immediate. But I already had a band. I'd been performing for about 5 years, and so I was, you know, pretty well seasoned at performing, and 5 shows a night in bars and clubs, and
mm-hmm.
so I was, used to doing it, and so I was ready for it, really.
Yeah. Can you tell me about the American Bandstand and Dick Clark?
Yeah, I was in Walker, Louisiana, doing a show, and I got a phone call and said there was going to be a private jet to whisk me out to the ABC, to actually Burbank, and then a helicopter picked me up and flew me right to the grounds of the ABC television studios, and I got off of that helicopter, went straight to the dressing room, and went on American Bandstand, which was always a dream of mine to be on there.
Wow. You've seen a lot of dreams come true.
Yeah, I mean, everything I ever wanted to do, I've done. I mean,
that's incredible.
Seriously, honestly, #1 records, gold records, and platinum albums, and TV shows and movies, and
yeah, my goodness.
So, I've been very blessed.
Yeah, no. Hey, how was Dick Clark?
Dick Clark and I are still friends to this day, believe it or not.
Yeah, I was told
that, and then right after that, he called me up and said he was doing a movie about Elvis Presley starring Kurt Russell, and I couldn't believe that because, I grew up with Kurt Russell. I think we're about the same age, and
mm-hmm.
I grew up watching Kurt as a Disney actor, and I couldn't believe he was going to play Elvis, but Dick showed me his screen test, and it was unbelievable, the transformation. And I've done 12 movies, 29 commercials, and a Twilight Zone being Elvis's voice. And to date, that is still my favorite, the very first one.
Mm-hmm. Was it hard for Kurt Russell to do lip syncing? I mean, were you there? Were you in the same room when that was being done?
Yes, I was out in Hollywood, and they would throw it up. They call it looping,
mm-hmm.
and they would throw up a black and white, like on a movie screen, and I would have to match, Kurt's vocal, and vice versa. He would have to match me, and I think he did a wonderful job.
Mm-hmm. Now, there got to a point that I'm sure that you wanted to do other things besides Elvis cover songs and that, right?
Well, I mean, I immediately, after the King is gone, I immediately got away from that. I knew better than that.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that was a one-way street.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'd been around music all my life, and, there's only one Elvis, and the last thing I wanted to do was wear a white jumpsuit,
Yeah.
So I totally got away from that. You got to remember, I was a songwriter.
Right.
And I wanted to record my own songs, which I did, and then I embarked on a country music career, which had nothing to do with Elvis Presley.
Right.
But while I was having #1 country records, I was still asked to do Elvis movies, and so I did, and it's kind of like I had the best of both worlds, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you really did. How was it working with EPE and with Priscilla?
Well, it was wonderful, and still is. We still have a wonderful working relationship because they know that what I do because I'm an Elvis fan first and foremost, and that I do nothing but uphold Elvis's image in a positive way, which I would never do anything detrimental anyway, because I love Elvis's music, and they know that, and so they really don't say too much about anything I do. But of course I wouldn't step over boundaries. Anything I do, I always ask them about it or tell them,
Yeah. Well, I meant to ask, and I only know because Jamie had told me. Now, when Elvis had passed, you went to Memphis.
I did the very next day, and I stood in line for 8.5, 9, 10 hours, and I got 40 feet from the gate, and they closed it.
Oh, you must have been devastated.
I was, but that wasn't meant to be. So I got my Camaro and flew back to Nashville, and the very next day recorded The King Is Gone. So.
Yeah. I was told that you were friends with Conway Twitty.
Yeah, Conway and I, we worked together for 7, 8 years. I opened up his shows. We did songs together. We had a top 5 record together with that song, Make Believe.
Great song, great song.
Yeah, he was a wonderful mentor and a friend, and I miss him a lot. Yeah,
now you opened tours for him?
Yeah, for 7 years.
Wow. That must
starting in 78.
That must have been, what a dream that is. Another legend.
Was because, like I say, here was the #1 country music star in the world, and he wanted me to open up for him, and, I told him, twist my arm. And we had a wonderful relationship for years and years and years, and we toured all over the country, and he would perform for 20,000 people, Conway was hot back then.
Yeah, I was always a big fan. I was always kind of strange in high school. I mean, I liked country music, so
yeah, well,
I was the nerd and Elvis. So it was I took a double hit. So
well, there were a lot more Elvis fans and Conway fans out there than what you knew. They just were probably hiding in the closet and didn't want to admit it.
Yeah, you're right. Hey, what was it like to work with people like DJ Fontana and Scotty Moore? I mean,
well, and still working with them.
Yeah,
I had a show this weekend with them.
Do you?
Jordanaires in Greenville, Mississippi, at the casino, and then we've got a lot of shows together this year, and it's an unbelievable relationship that we have, and it's a treat for me to be on stage with my heroes.
Yeah. What stories they must be able to tell?
Yeah, some I can tell and some I can't.
Yeah. Hey, is there one person that you ever worked with that kind of made you swallow a couple times and say, "My gosh, I can't believe I'm here with him"?
Well, yeah, Conway.
Conway, yeah. I had a feeling that's who you were going to say.
Yeah, I mean, how's it get any better than that? I've worked with everybody in the business, but
yeah.
Conway, next to Elvis, he was my hero anyway. And I'll have to say Jerry Lee. I did a song with Jerry Lee Lewis, and at the time that was as big as, he was next to Elvis, at one time.
Yeah. Another legend.
So that was a treat working with Jerry Lee, doing shows with him and recording with him.
So what are you doing now?
I'm in the middle of a new album, and I'm for Curb Records, and I'm finishing up tomorrow and Wednesday. Haven't been aggressive about recording. I've been lazy about it. And all of us artists tend to get and be that way during, if you've been around 30 years like myself. And I just decided 2008 I wanted to do a new album and do it to the best that I can do, and get songs from some of the best songwriters in the world, like Mark James, even Stevens, and on, and I did, and I'm just really excited about the album.
Now, you said you wrote music very early on in your career. Did Elvis ever look at any music?
No, at the time that I was started writing, I did get one song to Elvis, but never heard anything about it. But
no.
Through Felton Jarvis, but I've written songs for a lot of people. George Strait, Tanya Tucker, T. Graham Brown, George Jones, and the list goes on, and I'm still writing songs. I just finished a new song for George Strait again.
Wow.
And so I keep doing that. A lot of people don't know that I do that, but I do.
Yeah. No. Are you going to be touring?
I tour every year. I work 100 to 150 days a year.
Yeah. What do you like to do in your free time? What do you enjoy doing?
Well, I enjoy playing racquetball like I did today. I rollerblade, I run, I walk. I enjoy taking care of myself, I'll just be honest with you, because nothing in the world is better than taking care of yourself, because if you don't take care of this body, where are you going to live?
That's true. That's true. You going to Memphis for the birthday week?
No, that's tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't ever go down there except in August. I work at the Horseshoe Casino 2 nights. I'll be there the 15th and 16th with the Jordanaires, the Stamps, DJ Fontana, and Miss Millie Kirkham again.
Oh, Millie Cook. That's a lady that I would like to be able to speak to one of these days. You know, I met you once down in Memphis. I accidentally ran over your foot with my wheelchair.
Oh.
Oh, you're that guy. Yeah.
I remember you.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
You were at the Elvis, the place where they served, the Elvis restaurant. I ran over your foot. Yeah. So, are there other EPE projects that you're working on?
Yeah, I just finished a new movie called Elvis Close as a Brother.
Wow.
Did 7 songs for that.
Mm-hmm. Now, what's that one? Is that one of the Stanley ones, or?
Is that what?
Is that one of the who wrote?
No, this is a producer out in Hollywood, Rick Stevens, who has the biggest recording studio out there, and I don't really know the gist of it. I just know that they got me to do 7 songs, and that's all I know. And I did a new duet with Dolly Parton called Last Night I Dreamed About Elvis, a song that she wrote.
Wow.
And, so I just continue doing Elvis-related projects. And that's okay by me. They not only pay very well, but I enjoy it.
Yeah, it's something that you love.
Yeah, I just did a new song of Mark James, and I swore I'd never do anything like this again. But the song was so great. There's magic to Mark James, and he wrote a song called Blue Suede Heaven.
Yes, I know the song.
And so I just recorded that.
Wow. Was there anything that you'd like to say to your fans out there on LVI Radio?
I would just like to say to all the fans out there to keep supporting Elvis, because it just doesn't get any better than Elvis. And the longer that I live, the longer that I realize that. When you listen to a young Elvis, you listen to a 1961 Elvis singing There's Always Me, or Sentimental Me, or It's Now or Never, Elvis just didn't really realize what an unbelievable singer and talent he really was. He didn't really have a clue. He didn't look upon himself as being a great artist, and which is kind of sad to me, because I think his peers made him feel that way because of jealousy, and I hate that, because nobody liked Elvis but the people, and that's the truth.
Yeah. Well, Ronnie, thank you very much for doing this for me and LVI Radio. Can you please stay on the line now? But thank you very much for doing this.
Sure.
Okay, I'll give you a count of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Hi, folks. I'm Ronnie McDowell, and you can hear my interview on the Joe Krein Show on LVI Radio.